موسى قال هي عصاي أتوكأ عليها وأهش بها على غنمي ولي فيها مآرب أخرى قال ألقها يا موسى فألقاها فإذا هي حية تسعى قال خذها ولا تخف سنعيدها سيرتها الأولى واضمم يدك إلى جناحك تخرج بيضاء من غير سوء آية أخرى لنريك من آياتنا الكبرى اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي اشدد به أزري وأشركه في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My condolences to you all in these tragic nights. Thank you for that Quran recitation, Brother Muhammad. Please recite another loud salawat for Brother Muhammad. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Before we begin, just a couple housekeeping things again. As we move into the later nights and the busier nights, the chairs will be needed for the elderly and the injured. So please respect that rule. And if you're youth or you don't fall in that category, please come to the mats, inshallah. In regards to exiting, same thing we've been doing the past couple nights. We'll hold the brothers a couple minutes to allow the sisters to leave, and then brothers, you can exit from the right exit, and then outside, and then back inside through the main lobby doors, inshallah. In terms of announcements, we do have kids programs. Room 201 is a kid program, as well as Hall 104. And in regards to Hall 102, which is a new addition for the young parents with young kids, please, if you're taking too much space with your or you need more space, that is, with your child or children, or they're running around or whatever it may be, that is a great place for you with a lot of space, inshallah, and the live stream of this majalis will be played there, inshallah, as well. And with that, I'd like to welcome our Sayyid for tonight, Sayyid Ali Jafri, with a loud Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah. Brothers, if we can move as close to the member as possible, that would be great. Thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كتب الله لأغلبن أنا ورسلي إن الله قوي عزيز وقال الصادق عليه السلام السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفة الله السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله اللهم صل على Brothers and sisters, respected elders, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I begin by once again offering my condolences to each and every one of you, to all of the ulama, the maraji, and specifically to the imam of the time, as we commemorate these tragic nights and Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Our topic in these nights is the ziyarat of Warith. And we are discussing Imam Hussein alayhi salam and trying to learn more about Imam Hussein alayhi salam, gain ma'rifah of him, gain more love for him by way of looking at the lives of the prophets. We said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through these words in this ziyarah, is trying to introduce to us Imam Hussein alayhi salam by way of different characteristics that the prophets had. Thus far, we've gone through Prophet Adam alayhi salam. We talked about the two paths that he created, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created through him for us, the path of submission, the path of rebellion. We talked about Prophet Idris alayhi salam and his sincerity, doing everything exclusively for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We talked about Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, bringing the law, those four corners for us to follow on this path. We talked about Prophet Hud alayhi salam and his power, and the power that he manifested, the power of Allah that he manifested. And last night we talked about Ibrahim alayhi salam, the Khalil, or the friend of Allah. And we discussed how we can become a friend and inshallah a lover of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that takes us to our discussion here tonight on Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. Now, before we begin that discussion, what is it that we want to take from this story tonight of Prophet Yusuf? One of the questions that sometimes we struggle with, especially young people out there, is it worth it for me to do the right thing? We sometimes know what's the right thing. I know I shouldn't listen to haram music. I know I shouldn't talk back when somebody disrespects me. I know I shouldn't look at that. I know I shouldn't eat that. We sometimes know these things, but we lack the will to act on our knowledge. This is something that has held people back and led good people to falling off the path throughout time. Knowing what the right thing is to do, but lacking the motivation, lacking the perseverance, lacking the will to do what's right. And this is one of the beautiful things about the story of Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us how he treats those who do the right thing. Now, what do we call tonight's lecture? We call it Yusuf, the completion of God's favor. You'll say, well, that's a long name, that's a long characteristic. Well, we're going to get to it, why we chose that. Our story starts not with Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, but it starts with Imam Sayyid alayhi salam. Imam Sayyid alayhi salam once was with Abu Hamza Thumali, his companion, and they see someone asking for help, for food, for money, whatever it was. And Imam Sayyid alayhi salam tells his companion, go and make sure that he has something right away. His companion wonders, he says, why was it? Why were you so adamant? And Imam Sayyid alayhi salam says, it's because of the story of Yaqub and Yusuf. Brothers and sisters, this story is so beautifully mentioned in the Holy Quran that tonight, rather than me picking a few verses here and there, I said, let's actually just read the story together and talk about it. Inshallah, as much as we can in the time that provides. So there's a few verses that I've highlighted, and inshallah we'll try to go together through the story. Now, what was Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam pointing to here? What does this beggar, and making sure that this beggar is fed, making sure that this individual who doesn't have the means is taken care of, what does this have to do with the beginning of our story? We have to go back and understand who Prophet Yaqub was, first of all. Connecting it to yesterday, Prophet Yaqub is the son of Prophet Ishaq, who's the son of Prophet Ibrahim. Meaning that he's the grandson of Prophet Ibrahim, and he actually met Prophet Ibrahim. In fact, he was 20 years old when Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam passes away. So you see, Prophet Yaqub got to spend a good amount of time with not only his father, but also Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Now, he was called Yaqub because it means the one who came after. Why? Because he was a twin, and he was the second twin. Okay? So he was called Yaqub. This is one reason that they say his name was Yaqub. Now, he was known as Israel, which in the language meant basically the equivalent of Abdullah, the servant of God. Okay? He had a lot of sons, as we know, Prophet Yaqub. Right? He had these 12 sons. Right at the start of the story here, it says, well, first let's start. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Starting verse 3, if you guys want to look along with me, inshallah, tonight. نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ أَحْسَنُ الْقَصَصِ. This, we recount to you the best of narratives. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we've seen, I'm jumping around different chapters usually, but here with Prophet Yusuf, it's all in one complete story. Right? The best of narratives. It's because there's something special about this story. إِذْ قَالَ يُوسُفُ لِأَبِيهِ. When Yusuf says to his father, what does he say? يَا أَبَتِي إِنِّي رَأَيْتُ أَحَدَ أَشَرَ كَوْكَبًا وَالشَّمْسُ وَالْقَمَرَ رَأَيْتُهُمْ لِي سَاجِدِينَ. It says, I see the 11 planets, the sun and the moon, prostrating themselves before me. He's mentioning his dream to his father. Why doesn't he mention it to his mother? Because his mother passed away when she was giving birth to Benjamin, his younger brother. Right? Yusuf and Benjamin, they come from the same mother, and she passed away in childbirth. So it was for this reason, amongst other reasons, that Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam was very close to Prophet Yusuf and Benjamin, giving them a lot of attention because their mother had died. And so they needed that extra attention. Now, going back to the story of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, what happens is that one day a beggar, or someone who has, it's not appropriate actually to say beggar in this story, right? Meaning that it was a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everyone's a servant of Allah. We're all beggars actually. We're all begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts something with somebody, and the rest of us are in need of it. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's knowledge, sometimes it's friendship. We're all beggars. Right? He is ghani, we are faqr. Right? We are fuqara ila Allah. We are all in need of Allah. We are all needy. But this individual, he came, he needed something to eat. And it turns out he was one of the awliya of Allah, one of Allah's beloved servants. There's a hadith Qudsi where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Holy Prophet, awliyai tahta qaba'i. My awliya are under my qaba. This is a qaba, what I'm wearing here. Right? My awliya are hidden. Right? Not everyone knows them except for me. This is why whenever we're dealing with anybody, our friend, our mom, our dad, somebody at school, somebody that disrespects us, whoever it is, we don't know who is the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to treat everyone like they're the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? God forbid that we harm someone, disrespect someone, hurt someone's feelings who is actually the beloved of Allah. So what happens is this individual comes and asks for food at the door of Prophet Yaqub, according to one of the narrations. And it says that Prophet Yaqub didn't even know, he wasn't even aware that this happened. But for whatever reason, they were busy, whatever it was, this individual goes away hungry. And he says to Allah, Allah, I went to the house of one of your servants and I left hungry. And because of this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals to Prophet Yaqub that prepare for some tests. Prepare for some tests. The same night, Yusuf alayhi salam mentions that he had this dream. Now you say, that's kind of harsh, right? See, that's kind of harsh. You see, For someone like you or I, perhaps we make a mistake like this unintentionally. Okay, we're not aware, we're ghafil of what's going on in our surroundings, in our house, whatever the case may be. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives us, yes. Right? But you have to understand the sins of the awliya are very different. Hasanatul abrar, sayyatul muqarrabin. That the good deeds of those who are good people are the bad deeds of those who are very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Meaning that there's a higher expectation for somebody of that status in Allah's eyes here. Okay? So, and again, it's a test. It doesn't even need to say, we don't have to say that it's a punishment, right? Rather, it's cause and effect. Right? These are some of the things that are realities about the world of causation. So what happens is that this dream happens, and right away, Prophet Yaqub understands that something is up, that a test may be coming by way of this. And that's what he mentions to his son Yusuf alayhi salam, to keep this from other people. Right? You don't have to put all the good news out there all the time. Now sometimes people look at this and they take it to an extreme and they say we can never show a picture of our children anywhere and these kinds of things, right? Look, we have to be balanced in Islam. Right? Islam teaches us to be balanced. So we take out sadaqah, we say mashallah, we say alhamdulillah, right? And this should cover us many times. Right? But we also don't want to go too much on the other side. Every single good thing that's happening to us in our life, we want to put it out there on social media, right? We want to share it with everybody, right? Sometimes these things also will have repercussions. So, on the issue of dreams, I just want to stop for a moment. I said, is it really worth it for me to talk about it? We got a long chapter to get through. I'm on, verse number 4 here. But I said that even if nothing else, I share this tonight, I feel like it'll have been something of value. Sometimes you look at these like infographics that they make and they say like how much of your life is spent doing different things. And they're like, this much of your life is spent at work, this much of your life is spent here. Right? This is the amount of time you only have with your kids or your parents or whatever. And they'll say this much of your life is sleeping. They won't count that time. See, as Muslims, we don't accept this. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't la ta'khudhuhu sinatun wa la nawm. He's not sleeping, right? When we're sleeping, this is an opportunity for us to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just as much as right now you sitting in the majlis of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is an opportunity for you to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why waste that opportunity? Right? 8 hours a night, 7 hours a night, 3 hours a night, however much we're sleeping. Why waste that chance to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Okay? Dreams are something that was given to humanity to strengthen our belief in the afterlife. They say that during the time of some of the earlier prophets, dreams did not exist. And to strengthen people's belief in the afterlife, right? This was something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gifted to humanity. Now, what are dreams? Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in chapter 39, verse 42, Allahu yatawaffa al-anfus hina mawtiha wallati lam tamut في منامها فيمسك التي قضى عليها الموت ويرسل الأخرى. It says Allah takes the souls at the time of death and those who have not died in their sleep. Right? We talked about this. Right? That the angel of death, right? According to some, he's the one that comes and he'll take our souls when we sleep. So what is it that we're seeing when we're dreaming? Right? We are seeing images, for lack of a better term, or say images from the realm of mithal, alam al-mithal. Alam al-mithal, what does that mean? When you die, it's called barzakh. It's the same. Now, there's something called the mithal that's connected and the mithal that's not connected. Muttasil, munfasil. What's connected is that, let's say sometimes I spend the whole day, and the whole day I'm thinking about, man, I got to give a speech. I'm worried about the speech. I'm nervous about the speech. I'm thinking about the speech. My mind is occupied. I'm not thinking about Allah. I'm thinking about the speech. What happens is in the dream, I'm giving a speech. You see? This is what's connected to me. I'm seeing a reflection there. Right? But the less that I'm connected to the physical realm, the more that I'm connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ahlul Bayt, the Holy Quran, the more my thoughts, my waking moments, all my waking moments are focused on those things of a higher order, of a higher quality. the more opportunity I have when I sleep to connect to this alam al-mithal that's munfasil, that's basically beyond me. It's outside of just me. It is that true next realm that we will all someday be inside of. Okay, we're actually inside of it now, but that's a whole other discussion, right? But it's someday that we'll all be giving our attention to, our full attention. Right now, our full attention is not there. Our attention is mostly on the physical. When we remove our attention and we cut that attention from the physical and we have that attention more on the spiritual, that's called death. That's the definition of death in reality. But in sleep, we have this opportunity, right? So what can we do practically? You're like, okay, bro, big words and big discussion. Like, what's the practical thing? Practical thing is take sleeping seriously, right? If you know it's an opportunity to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have potentially access to the future, to the past, access to the prophets and the imams, access to the reality of the Holy Quran. All these things are open to us. Why not? Right? Why not do tawbah before we sleep? To purify our hearts. Why not make wudu before we sleep? Why not sleep in the way that the Holy Prophet told us to sleep? Not sleeping on our stomach, for example. Why not recite Surah Qadr 11 times before we sleep, for example? Surah Ikhlas 3 times before we sleep. Recite Surah Hashr. Whatever it is that have been recommended to us, some of those things, inshallah, we can handle, inshallah. And this allows us to take better advantage of our sleep. Send me a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So Prophet Yaqub responds to his son. He says, my son, don't recount this dream. And then he says, then it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and that is how your Lord will choose you and teach you the interpretation of dreams and complete His blessings upon you. وَيُتِمُّ نِعْمَتُهُ عَلَيْكَ. This is the title of our talk tonight. Why? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us through Yusuf alayhi salam how He deals with those who He loves and who love Him. How He deals with those who sacrifice what's easy, who sacrifice what seems pleasurable, who sacrifice for Him. How does He constantly deal with that type of a servant? This is a beautiful story, but you know what else is a beautiful story? Your life. Every single one of you in this room has a beautiful story. I promise you. If you came up here and you told us your story, people would also be in tears. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the same way that He's perfecting the ni'mah with Yusuf, that door is open for all of us, right? To make our story that much more beautiful. Right? The story of an abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who struggles, and to see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes your hand time and time again, helps you through difficulties, right? It's a beautiful love story, inshallah, for all of us. Shaykh al-Suduq, he lived during the time of the minor occultation. Once he had a meeting with the Imam of the time. The Imam of the time said, why don't you write a book about me to clarify for people my situation, right? Clarify these doubts that they have. And he said, I'm writing a book. He said, no, write a book, but mention the stories of the prophets. Mention how I'm similar to the prophets. Right? And this is the book that's called Kamal ad-Din wa Tamam al-Ni'mah. Right? This is this book that is named after this verse in reality. That the perfection of the religion and the completion of the favor. Right? And we have a hadith from Imam Baqir alayhi salam that says Yusuf alayhi salam resembles Imam Mahdi. Right? Imam Mahdi resembles Yusuf, and we'll talk about it inshallah towards the end. But okay. Now we go to verse number 9, verse number 8. It says, and when they said, surely Joseph and his brother are dearer to our father than the rest of us. Though we are a strong group, our father is manifest error. Okay, look, this seems like just some jealousy. Okay, it's just some jealousy from some brothers. Right? It's not so serious. Okay, uqtulu Yusuf, immediately. Like, kill Yusuf. I say, well, that's a big jump. You went from being jealous to now immediately saying kill Yusuf. Right? The Mufassirin, they tell us, look, this is how shaitan works. Shaitan doesn't come to you and say, hey, you know what? You need to, become one of the alphabet people. He doesn't come to you and say that. He comes to you and says, it's okay for you to look at this. It's okay. Just one time. It's okay for you to think that. It's okay for you to normalize this. That's okay. You see? This is how shaitan works, brothers and sisters. This is the lesson from this verse. We have to be very careful. Okay, and so now we know the story, and because of how much people know about this story, I'm not going to go through all the details. We're going to just mention some of the main points. Okay. We know what happens, that they come and they ask their father, let us take him out. He says, it upsets me that you should take him away. فَأَخَافُ أَنْ يَأْكَلُهُ الذِّئْبُ. I'm afraid that a wolf is going to eat him. Right? What is this wolf? Is he really afraid of a wolf? Maybe, perhaps he was saying that. But in barzakh, when somebody has jealousy, they are seen as a wolf. They are manifested as a wolf. So here he's actually doing ishara and pointing to them, to these children of his. And I'm afraid of this jealousy. They say that when Yusuf alayhi salam is taken out of the town, Yaqub is walking behind him crying. Because of the separation, the fear that he had. You see, sometimes when we are so worried about something, they say he was so worried and overprotective, right? And so worried after this whole incident that I talked about at the beginning, right, with the dream, that it actually made the sons even more concerned, even more jealous. You see? And obviously this was a problem in the sons, not the problem in the Prophet. But it shows us that sometimes, right, this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works. Send me a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. When Yusuf alayhi salam is put into the well, right, he starts saying to his brothers, he says to his brothers, remember me when you're hungry and you're thirsty. Remember my hunger and my thirst. SubhanAllah. Ya Abu Abdullah. He was trying to make their emotions awakened. Right? Because when we sin, brothers and sisters, oftentimes it's our hearts that have become hardened. That we forget what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, all these blessings, and we're willing to go against Him. They come back. It says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals to him then in the well, He says, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِ, that you will surely inform them about this affair of theirs while they are not aware of your identity. Right? This promise that is given to Yusuf, it gives him strength throughout this whole journey. And this is something for each of us, that we also have this promise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that I'm not going to let go of the ajr of the muhsineen. I'm not going to forget about it. You're doing something good, nobody sees it. It's okay. Do it for the sake of Allah. Do it, be like Idris alayhi salam. Be like Yusuf alayhi salam. Okay? Everybody doesn't have to know and see all the good things that we do. It's okay. Right? Now when they come back with what? With the shirt. Though the word qamis, shirt, is mentioned 6 times in the Holy Quran, and all of them are in this chapter. Okay. There's a lot that can be said here, but if we just look at the shirt, how it's used in this chapter. Number 1, it's mentioned here. They come with this shirt that's what? Fake blood on it. Okay. The shirt here is an opportunity for them, right, to go down. Meaning that by way of this shirt, they are having a spiritual fall. Okay. Later on, we see that the shirt acts as, when the shirt is ripped from behind, right? It acts in a way that it's testifying. It testifies on behalf of Yusuf later on, that it's ripped from behind. Right? That shows that he's innocent. And we see at the end, the shirt is something that causes the bringing back of Yaqub's eyesight. So what is going on here with the shirt? There's differences of opinion, different views on it. But one thing that we can see here is that in some ways this can be looked at as the tests of the dunya, or the dunya itself. Right? How do you use the dunya? It can be a cause for you to come down. It can be a cause for you to be elevated. It can be a cause for you to reach salvation. It's going to testify against you. All of these things are there. Now when Yusuf alayhi salam is taken and he's bought now, he's taken into slavery. Right? Look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works. That for the sake of the guidance of the people, what He will put His awliya through. Ya Abu Abdullah. For the sake of the guidance of the people, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put the awliya through, and what the awliya will be willing and happy to go through. Right? And this has to be our calling here in America too. we think that we are going to be those who allow Islam to grow in America. We have to be ready for sacrifice. It can't just be comfort, ease, wealth. Oh, it's going to come with sacrifice, struggle, blood, sweat, and tears. Okay. What they say is that وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ اشْتَرَاهُ مِنْ مِصْرٍ لِإِمْرَأَتِهِ أَكْرَمِ مَثْوَاهُ عَسَىٰ أَن يَنْفَعَنَا أَن يَتَّخَذُهُ وَلَدًا. Right? He says, perhaps we will benefit, right, from this servant, this slave, this person, or we'll even take him as a son. When Fir'aun and the lady Asya have a similar discussion, which we'll talk about tomorrow with the story of Nabi Musa, it says that Lady Asya had this feeling, but Fir'aun didn't. Fir'aun said, okay, for your sake, that's fine. But he didn't say, perhaps we will take him. He didn't have that same love. He said, this love of the awliya, of the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is what ends up saving this individual. And if you look at this story, everyone is saved in this story. Zulaykha is saved in this story. The brothers are saved in this story. The Aziz, everyone is saved in the story. The king is saved in this story. SubhanAllah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is again telling you and I, it's okay. Did you do something in this room that's wrong? I know I have. Have you sinned? I know I have. Have you hurt someone? I know I have. But have you thrown God's prophet to his death? Have you purchased God's prophet for a cheap price? Have you tried to do a haram in front of God's prophet? Right. Look at what Allah's teaching us here. He's saying that every single one of you who showed up for this story of Yusuf tonight, I love you. I want you to be closer. I brought you here tonight. I'm speaking to you tonight. Just like I spoke to Yusuf. He said, there's a day that you'll come in front of me. There's a day that we'll be together. Right? Hold on. Right? Be a little bit better than you were yesterday. Right? This is a story for all of us, brothers and sisters. This is the story of all of us. Now, because for obvious reasons, I'm not going to go into all of the details here related to Zulaykha, but one point that's worth mentioning is that this also was not something that just happened all at once. This is something that over time built up within her. And this is where we have to be careful when the lines that we have between haram and halal, between mahramiyah, between the genders, okay? Now look, we don't want to go to one extreme or the other. Right? One extreme is that we say that we can never speak to the other gender at all. Right? When we see that this is not what Islam says. Ayatollah Khamenei himself, may Allah elevate his status, he would say that the women who are doing proper hijab, that allows them to be a part of the society in an active way. This is the purpose of hijab. Right? But then on the other side, we have to understand that hijab is not just a physical cloth. Right? Unfortunately, sometimes we're very quick to judge people based off the physical cloth. You know, I was teaching a class, and, you know, alhamdulillah, there's a class of sisters. There's some very good sisters in the class. At the end of the class, one of the very best students of the class, if not the best student in the class, comes to me and thanks me. Nothing that I did, it was because of the sister's ikhlas and because of the beautiful teachings of Ahlul Bayt. And she said that I began wearing hijab. I was, alhamdulillah, happy for the sister. I was also shocked because I said this was somebody I already thought was the best sister in the class as far as her practice of the deen. Right? How quickly are we judging our sisters who are not wearing hijab in the complete way? Right? How many of us, brothers, right, would have the strength in this society to do what they do? To be the flags of Islam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. On top of that, okay, yes, let's say their hijab is not complete. Is our hijab complete as brothers? Are we praying with clothes that are appropriate for us to be praying with? Are we casting our eyes down, which is our responsibility as brothers? What do our DMs look like? Where are we at? Right? And so we have to be very careful. We are all sinners on the path to Allah. Ibn Sina would say that everyone is a sinner on the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's very easy to judge people, right, without having been in their shoes. Okay? That doesn't mean that we don't say that, hijab is important. It's very important, right? Because of exactly what we're saying here is that these lines shouldn't be crossed. But my point is that we don't just look at it from one angle. We have to be a little bit more open-hearted, right? Understand people's struggles, understand the beauty in the journey, inshallah. And inshallah, we all complete our deen, we all complete our hijab, we all get better, inshallah, with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Muhammad salli ala Muhammad. So now it says when Zulaykha is chasing after Yusuf, we see the doors are opening for him. She had planned all these doors locked, right? If you guys watched the movie that they made about Nabi Yusuf, it's a good movie, even if, not everything is, 100% accurate, but it's very, alhamdulillah, good effort that they did, a very good movie. I would recommend it after a certain age, inshallah. But you see there, the doors just started flying open, right? And there's differences in the hadith about how this happened. But what we're learning from this is that for a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the door is never closed. There's no such thing as a dead end. Right? When we connect ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're connecting to yourself to the one who has the keys to the heavens and the earth. Right? Just read some of our du'as. It says, we call on you by the name of the one who unlocks those doors that are locked. Okay, send me a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It's the last point on this issue, on this discussion vis-a-vis hijab. When they gather the women and they say, okay, now bring out Yusuf alayhi salam, right? Yusuf alayhi salam that resembled Nabi Adam alayhi salam with all of his, majesty. And they come out and they say the women started to cut their hands. Right? Some say that this is us and the dunya. Right? When we pay too much attention to the dunya, we forget about ourselves. And we have to be very careful. All of us have something that we're looking at too much. Right? With these eyes, with the eyes of the heart. Right? Whether it's the opposite gender, whether it's our bank account, whether it's our ego, whatever it is. Right? Too much attention, you're going to end up cutting yourself. What happens, the verse immediately after they cut themselves, remember, she was being mocked. They say, you're falling for this servant of yours? She was being mocked. You see, immediately after, she says, you see what I told you? Right, now she doubles down. And now she says, he's going to go to jail if he doesn't compromise. You see, what happened here? What happened here was the normalization of the sin. Was that the sin became okay. And this is why when we do sin, brothers and sisters, hide your sin. Don't be proud posting that, yes, I listen to haram music. It's very obvious. Yes, I have this problem, that problem. Right? Hide your sin and hide the sin of your brothers and sisters. Because this is one of the keys for us to get back on track, is that we're ashamed of the sin. Okay, so now Yusuf alayhi salam, he says these famous words, which we all need to write in gold. He says, قَالَ رَبِّ السِّجْنِ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا يَدْعُونَنِي إِلَيْهِ. That what they call me to, the prison is more beautiful to me, is more beloved to me. And this is how all of us have to be when it comes to sinning. Okay? That we don't fear prison, we fear hellfire. Why? Because prison, as we see in this story, can be the place for us to get the gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Meaning that the real prison for the believer is in the next world, brothers and sisters. Inshallah, send me a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I'm going to jump ahead significantly in the interest of time, okay, to when he's now in the position of being put in charge of the next 7 years and making sure that things are running smoothly. and his brothers, because the discussion on the brothers is where the discussion of the Imam of the time opens up. Okay. It says that his brothers came, فَأَرَفُوهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ, that he recognized them, but they didn't recognize him. Right? You could say, well, yeah, naturally. Well, because they haven't seen each other in a long time, right? But how does he recognize them, but they don't recognize him? Why shouldn't it have been both ways, maybe? You could say he was a prophet. Some of the mufassireen, they tell us, look, this is a wali of Allah. This is a warith. This is not a regular person. Recognizing him has a deeper meaning. Because of the dhulm and oppression they did to the wali, they couldn't recognize him. They didn't have the tawfiq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took away this gift from them. What does the hadith of Imam Sadiq say about Sahib al-Zaman? It says every year he will come to Hajj. He will be with them. He recognizes the people, but they don't recognize him. Why? Because of the dhulm that we've done to him. Because when he sees our deeds twice a week, as the ahadith tell us, he sees the oppression that we've done to him. He sees that in his presence, how we've acted. The fact that the reappearance hasn't happened, this is something that is related to social factors. Yes. Where is the readiness of the people? All of these different factors are there. But the fact that you haven't met Imam Mahdi, that you haven't had an opportunity to see him, to recognize him, that I haven't had that opportunity, this is on us. This is what the Urafa tell us. Why? Because we see what happens when his brother comes, Benjamin. He says to him, Inni ana akhuk, I am your brother. Why? What was special? What was different about Benjamin than the others? They say that Benjamin had 3 sons. What were his 3 sons' name? Yusuf, Yusuf, Yusuf. This is someone who's in love. This is someone who is truly awaiting his beloved. It's all he can think about. And when you haven't oppressed him, why wouldn't he display himself to you? He already loves you. You know, I was in a session once in Qom, and it was mentioned that Ayatollah Khushbakht, who passed away just a few years back in Tehran, that when he went to Hajj, he saw the Imam of the time. And then it was mentioned that yes, he said this to Ayatollah Bakhshi. May Allah bless his soul. Ayatollah Bakhshi is buried in the haram of Lady Fatima Masuma. That same week, I saw Ayatollah Bakhshi in the haram. So I say, hey man, you got to shoot your shot, right? I said, Ayatollah Bakhshi. I say, I heard that Ayatollah Khushbakht, he saw the Imam of the time at Hajj, and he told you that. And he looks at me and he says, yes. So I said, what did he look like? Yeah. Brothers and sisters, why is it that we settle for so little in life? Why are we so satisfied with just being average Muslim, sinning once in a while, going to the majlis once in a while? Why don't we have higher goals for ourselves? You're not getting a second chance. This is it. There's no coming back. Death is going to come all of a sudden. Like we've talked about with the prophets, it came all of a sudden. It's not an exam you can study for. It's a pop quiz. It's coming. Don't settle to be average. You were meant to be a Khalifa. You were meant to be a Warith of these great prophets. Send me a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So I want to end here now with the discussion of his reunion with his father. I'm just trying to what to cut out. It's ahsan al-qasas. It's very difficult to cut out. But we'll, inshallah, do our best. Allahumma salli ala I'll tell the parts of the end of the story because people are always like, man, you didn't tell me the parts of the end of the story, okay? Prophethood doesn't continue through the children of Yusuf alayhi salam. It continues through the children of Levi, his brother. Why? It's because when they say they take Benjamin captive, right? He takes him pretend captive, not real captive, Yusuf, and they say, now you have to go back. Levi says, I'm not going back. I promised my father. I'm not going back. He said, this was the first step to tawbah. Right? Just accepting that I made a promise, I made a mistake. I'm not doing that again. I'm staying here. Right? Look at this little thing. Somebody who threw a prophet of God into a well, he is now the great-great-grandfather of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. SubhanAllah. How merciful is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Have you done something worse than Levi in this room? You haven't. I promise you haven't. Right? These are the nights for Tawbah, brothers and sisters. And so we see that Yaqub goes on remembering Yusuf alayhi salam. How is it that Yusuf shows himself? And what is the lesson for us when it comes to Imam of the time? They say, there's differences of opinion on this, there's different perspectives, looking at the hadith. One of the perspectives is very beautiful, I want to share it here tonight. It says that when Benjamin was taken captive, right, what happens is that they go back and they say, Prophet Yaqub, this is what happened, this Aziz, this powerful person, he took Benjamin now because Benjamin, stole something, right? And so what happens is Prophet Yaqub writes a letter. He says, give this to the Aziz, whoever this powerful person is, give this letter. What does he say in the letter? He introduces himself as the grandson of Ibrahim who was saved from the fire. SubhanAllah. It shows the impact that that event had, that this is still how people are introducing themselves 3 generations later. Okay. He says, you have taken my son prisoner and you caused me much heartache. You've broken my heart. He said, I already lost one son, you've taken my son prisoner and caused me much heartache. They say that Yusuf alayhi salam, he got this letter and the tears began to flow. Right? He's been asked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to maintain his identity, his secret all this time, even though those who he loves, his brothers, are in front of him. He says that now the tears begin to flow. He says the brothers are wondering, what's going on here? Why is this guy crying when he reads this letter from Yaqub alayhi salam? They say that this is when now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of these tears and this longing that Yusuf alayhi salam had for Yaqub, that he gives him permission. He says, now is the time for the dhuhr. And this is the most beautiful verse of the Quran in my heart, in my feeling. Right? Everyone has a verse that they're attached to. Right? It says, قَالُوا أَإِنَّكَ لَأَنْتَ يُوسُف? Right? How is it going to feel, brothers and sisters, when the Imam of the time comes and says, you're the Mahdi? I'm already in love with you. I've already been waiting for you. I've been praying for you day and night. You're the Mahdi. He says that I am Yusuf and this is my brother. Certainly Allah has shown favor on us. قَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَتِّقْ وَيَصْبِرْ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ الْأَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Right? That if someone is God-weary and patient, Allah doesn't waste your reward. Right? The next time that you're thinking of sinning, remember this story. How easy would it have been for Yusuf to fall? Right? They say Zulaykha was so beautiful. So beautiful. She was so in love with Yusuf that after she put him in prison, it was even worse for her. She would go onto the roof to try to see into the prison, to catch a glimpse of Yusuf. But she was in love with the physical Yusuf. When does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite them? It's the perfect love story. It's a perfect love story because it's a story between all creation and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, we have marriages. Yes, we have friendship. Yes, we have brothers. Yes, we have fathers. Yes, we have sons. But the true love story is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They say that when Zulaykha is older now, and she sees Yusuf, she comes to Yusuf to ask for something. He's in the position. And people say, aren't you ashamed to come in front of him now? In this position? She says, I'm not ashamed to come in front of someone who fears Allah. This is what we say to Ya Sahib Zaman. They say, we're not ashamed to come in front of you, Ya Sahib Zaman. She said that. Now he says, do you want to know someone who is more beautiful than I am? Someone who's more handsome than I am? She says, tell me. He starts to tell her about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they say because of the tears that she shed, the love that she had for Rasulullah after hearing about him, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala returned her youth to her and told Yusuf to take her as a wife. This is all of us, brothers and sisters, that right now, Yusuf alayhi salam is Imam Mahdi. We are in love with his Zahir. But we have to fall in love with the real Imam Mahdi. Not just the idea of Imam Mahdi. We have to speak to him. Right? We have to be with him. We have to see him wherever we see things. And this is how we can become like Yusuf alayhi salam, the one who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perfected the ni'mah. How did he perfect this ni'mah for Imam Hussein alayhi salam? How is he the completion of God's favor? We can look at it from the perspective of the sacrifice, the Dhibh al-Azim, as we talked about yesterday. Or we can look at it through the window of intercession. That because of Imam Hussein, the doors of heaven have become open for us, brothers and sisters. What was very difficult for us before, they say that the ship of Imam Hussein is quicker to the destination and it's wider for more of us to get on. Why? Because this love for Imam Hussein is what can change hearts. It's what can change the end of the beautiful story that each of you is writing here tonight and throughout your life. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعل الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم all together. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. They say Imam Mahdi alayhi salam in Dua Nudba, we say أين الطالب بدم مقتول بكربلاء. Where is the one that will take revenge for the blood that was spilt in Karbala? It means that wherever there is a Warith, and however long there is a Warith, there are those who will try to spill the blood of that Warith. Imam Mahdi is the one who will put an end to this once and for all. Well, tonight was the story of two brothers who loved each other, who were separated for a long time, who knew each other's struggles, who shed tears for each other. And in Karbala we see the same with Qasim and Abdullah, and with their fathers Hassan and Hussein. لا يوم كيومك يا أبا عبد الله. These were the words of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba on his deathbed to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. We say, Ya Imam Mujtaba, why did you say that? Perhaps he would say that it's because I was given poisoned water, but Hussein was denied even poisoned water. Perhaps he will say that it's because I was coughing up parts of my liver, but Hussein had spears going through parts of his liver. Perhaps Imam Mujtaba would say it's because I had arrows shot into my kafan, But Imam Hussein had arrows shot into him and was denied a kafan. Perhaps Imam Mushtaba would say that it's because I was denied being buried next to the Holy Prophet and I was buried in Baqi. But Hussein, you were not even buried. Perhaps he would say it's because I left my 2 young children in the lap of you, Ya Aba Abdullah. But you, Ya Aba Abdullah, had these same children in your lap as they were dying. On the 9th of Muharram, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is giving good news to the companions and his family. He's saying, tomorrow you will be promised paradise. You will be given a place in paradise if you're steadfast. There was a young boy who from 4 years old was under the tutelage and the care of Imam Hussein, and he was now 14 years old, sitting in the corner. They say that he was off by the side to himself. He finally came, he asked his uncle, he says, oh my uncle, will I be included amongst those lucky few? Imam Hussein asks him, he says, oh my son, oh the son of my brother, كيف الموت عندك? How do you find death? Qasim was a lover from the school of Imam Hassan, from the school of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. He says, al-maut indi ahla min al-asal. He says, death to me is sweeter than honey. They say Imam Hussein grabbed him and held him close. They hugged, they shed tears. But this is not the first time they would hug and shed tears. It wouldn't be the last. The next day, it says, وهو غلام صغير لم يبلغ الحلم. He hadn't reached puberty yet. It said, فلما نظر الحسين عليه السلام عليها, they both started to cry. يبكيان. They both started to cry when they look at each other and they begin to hug. He asks for permission. He says, oh Abu Abdullah, you've let Ali Akbar go. Am I not your son as well? Do you see me as less than your son because I'm not your actual son? Imam Hussein wouldn't give permission. He couldn't see the son of his brother go. Some of the narrations, they mention that Hazrat Qasim began to kiss the hands of Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein still wouldn't allow him. They say Hazrat Qasim threw himself on the feet of Imam Hussein. Ruhi li ruhika al-fada, nafsi li nafsika al-waqa. Says, may I be sacrificed for you, Ya Abdullah, there's nothing left for me in this world. Finally, Imam Hussein allowed him. He said, I give you permission, my son. But he didn't allow him without one more hug. He took Qasim and he held him close one more time. Tears began to fall down their face. It was the last time he was thinking about hugging his son, his brother Imam Hassan alayhi salam. فَخَرَجَ وَدَمُوعَهُ تَسِيلُ عَلَى خِدَّيْهِ. It says that Qasim alayhi salam starts to leave the tent when tears are coming down his face. Brothers and sisters, what kind of warrior we have that goes out with tears coming down his face? It was a warrior with no helmet, because there were no helmets that would fit him. It was a warrior with no armor, because no armors would fit him. It was a warrior with tears in his eyes because he was a boy. But no, he wasn't a boy, brothers and sisters. He was a lover. They asked one of the shuhada of the sacred defense, they said, did Khomeini lessen the age of enlistment that you children are coming to enlist? He said, no, Khomeini lessened the age of lovers. This is the school of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. In tankuruni fa'ana najl al-Hasan sibtu al-Nabi al-Mustafa wal-Mu'taman. If you don't know who I am the son of Hassan, the grandson of the trusted and the trustworthy. Say one of the enemies said, I'll never forget these words because he said it while one of his sandals was broken. He looked like a radiant moon. He came out, he fought valiantly. They say that he knocked down 35 of the enemy soldiers before finally they surround him. One of them came and hits him directly on his head. They say then he calls out, Ya Amma, he calls out to his uncle. They say Imam Hussein runs out like a lion. But in the battle, they say so many horses come around and they start to trample over Hazrat Qasim alayhi salam. When they trample him, they said the dust settles and they see Imam Hussein knocks away the enemies and all that's left is Qasim on the ground. What I'm about to read next, it says Shaheed Mutahhir, he wouldn't read this sometimes because he says he was afraid that some of the Urafa would pass out. It says, وَهُوَ يَفْحَصُ بِرِجْلِهِ. It says his leg was hitting against the ground in pain. Imam Hussein says, it's hard for me, my son, that I come to you and answer your call, but I couldn't give you what you needed. I couldn't get there in time. But your grandfather will satiate you in the day of judgment. But we say, Ya Aba Abdullah, if only this was the end of your pain on that day. If only you didn't have the martyrdom of Abdullah, the son of Hassan. I just imagine, we say to Yaqub alayhi salam, say, Yaqub alayhi salam, you were reunited with your two sons. But what about Hussein? This 1-year-old Abdullah that was given to him by his brother. Now on the day of Karbala, Imam Hussein is on the ground. Perhaps he's in sujood. We see that there's arrows coming out of his back. You see that there's rocks being thrown at his head. You see that there's spears being thrust into him. And you see his only concern is this 1-year-old that he remembers from Hassan alayhi salam, who's now 11 years old, running from the tent. And Zainab, he says, Zainab, hold him back, hold him back, hold back the son of my brother. He reaches his uncle. He says, you will try to take my uncle. You will try to kill my uncle. He puts his hand up. The sword comes down. His hand is hanging, they say, by the skin. Imam Hussein holds him close to his chest. How can you hold him close to the chest with spears in it? Ya Aba Abdullah. He says, Yabna akhi, isbir ala ma nazala bik. Have patience over what's happening to you. It says, Hormala came and shot a 3-headed arrow straight into the neck of Abdullah. It says his head comes off into the lap of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. ألا لعنة الله على قوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون بك يا الله 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 بمحمد بعلي بفاطمة بالحسن بالحسين بذرية الحسين. Allah, we ask you by the right of the martyred leader to forgive everyone in this room before they raise from their place. Oh Allah, we ask you by the right of Qasim and Abdullah, these two sons of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, that you forgive our parents, you forgive our teachers, you forgive anyone who taught us a word in Islam. Oh Allah, we ask you by the right of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein that you hasten the reappearance of the Imam and you make us his helpers when he comes. Wa akhir da'wan alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Brothers, please move forward for the matam. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Brothers, move forward for the make form lines, please. Brothers, Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya am Qasim, son of the chief, the embodiment of belief. I am not afraid and don't regret. My sword won't go back in its sheath. I represent Hassan today. I've come to fight those who betray. I represent Hassan today. I've come to fight those who betray. La ara al-maut إلا السعادة لا حياة إلا الشهادة لا حياة شهادة لا أرى الموت إلا السعادة لا حياة إلا الشهادة لا حياة. I am Qasim, son of the chief, the embodiment of belief. I am not afraid and don't regret. My sword won't go back in its sheath. I represent Hassan today. I've come to fight those who betray. I represent Hassan today. I've come to fight those who betray. لا أرى الموت إلا السعادة لا حياة لا حياة شهادة. لا أرى الموت إلا السعادة لا حياة إلا الشهادة لا إلا الشهادة. Auntie, auntie, come and see. Uncle has fallen onto his knees, fallen off his horse and all alone. This is the time to help him, I must go. Don't go, my little one, amongst the rocks, amongst the spears, amongst the swords. Look what they did to little Ali here, and Qasim there, these brutal hordes. Don't go, my little one, amongst the rocks, amongst the spears, amongst the swords. Look what they did to little Ali here, and Qasim there, these brutal hordes. Auntie is holding Abdullah tightly back. With tiny fingers he wants to go attack. I also want to accompany Qasim. I want to accompany Bani Hashim. I also want to accompany Qasim. I want to accompany Bani Hashim. I also want to accompany Qasim. I want to accompany Bani Hashim. Auntie, oh auntie, I can hear my father Hassan speaking in my ear. He says, Abdullah, go to your uncle. I am awaiting you, do not fear. Don't go, my Amana, my Abdullah, into the rain of sharp arrows. Uncle Abbas is nowhere to be found, my young tiny little rose. Don't go, my Amana, my Abdullah, into the rain of sharp arrows. Uncle Abbas is nowhere to defend you, my tiny little rose. Auntie is holding this tiny boy aback. His tiny voice begs, he wants to go attack. I also want to accompany Qasim. I want to accompany Bani Hashim. I also want to accompany Qasim. I want to accompany Bani Auntie, oh auntie, I can see Qasim has arrived in front of me. He signals to me to go and to fight. He is now standing at my uncle's feet. Auntie, I have nobody left for me. I am alone, an orphan child. Uncle took care of me, who is left for me after my uncle's smile? Auntie, I have nobody left for me. I am alone, an orphan child. Uncle took care of me, what is left for me after my uncle's smile? Auntie is holding Abdullah tightly back. With tiny fingers he wants to go attack. I also want to accompany Qasim. I want to accompany Bani Hashim. I also want to accompany Qasim. I want to accompany Bani Auntie, oh auntie, can't you see? Uncle is lying on the sandy sea. Soldiers are kicking him left and right. Don't kill my uncle, oh you enemy. A voice sounds out from within the ditch. Don't come, my child, oh Abdullah. Hussein is watching Abdullah approach. He's blind with fear, Ya Allah. A voice sounds out from within the ditch. Don't come, my child, oh Abdullah. Hussein is watching Abdullah approach. He's blind with fear, Ya Allah. The final moment of this reception fall. On spears and swords this little child wails and crawls. I also want to accompany Qasim. I want to accompany Bani Hashim. I also want to accompany Qasim. I want to accompany Bani Hashim. Auntie, oh auntie, come and see. Uncle has fallen onto his knees, fallen off his horse and all alone. This is the time to help him, I must go. Don't go, my little one, amongst the rocks, amongst the spears, amongst the swords. Look what they did to little Ali here and Qasim there. These bruises to the heart. Uncle is holding Abdullah tightly back. With tiny fingers he wants to go attack. Auntie is holding Abdullah tightly back. With tiny fingers he wants to go attack. I also want to accompany Qasim. I want to accompany Bani Hashim. I also want to accompany Qasim. I want to accompany Bani Hashim. Qasim, Qasim, Qasim Shaheed. 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 Qasim, 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 Qasim Shaheed. Qasim, Qasim, Qasim Shaheed. Qasim, Qasim, Qasim Qasim, Qasim, Qasim Shaheed. Qasim, Qasim, Qasim Qasim, Qasim Shaheed. Qasim, Qasim, Qasim Qasim, Qasim Shaheed. Qasim. Oh, Uncle's shining moon, let me look one more time. Let me look at your eyes. Let me look at your face, pride and joy of Hassan. See how your uncle cries. See how your uncle cries. Qasim, I'm of your mother. I'm of my brother. Qasim, I'm of the Rasul. I'm of Allah. Qasim, 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 Qasim Qasim, Qasim, Qasim Shaheed. Qasim, 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 Qasim Shaheed. Qasim, Qasim, Qasim Shaheed. Qasim, 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 Qasim Shaheed. Qasim. Oh, the joy of my heart, of Hassan you are part. How your uncle loves you. How can I let you go? In my care you should grow. God, you're only a child. God, you're only a child. Qasim, memory of my brother. Qasim, with hope of your mother. Handsome like no other. How can Uncle see you go? Qasim, 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 Qasim Qasim, Qasim, your voices, your voices. Qasim, Qasim, Qasim Shaheed. Qasim, 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 Qasim Shaheed. Qasim, Qasim, Qasim Shaheed. Qasim, Qasim. Oh, my little Qasim, how your uncle did wish to see you grow into youth. See you married one day, hold your children and play. Karbala killed my wish. Karbala killed my wish. Qasim, so full of youth and life, this shouldn't be a child's life. How can I stand here watch soldiers killing my child? Oh, Qasim, Qasim, Qasim
قاسم 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 شهيد قاسم 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 شهيد قاسم 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 شهيد قاسم 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 شهيد قاسم. Curses to the one who lays in wait to kill my Qasim, oh my nephew. May my two eyes go blind, but do not let me see any harm come to you. Any harm come to you. Qasim, horses are galloping, where is Uncle is running, screaming. Suddenly the dust dies down, pieces and pieces scatter. Qasim, 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 Shaheed, Qasim, 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 Shaheed, Qasim, Qasim. Take me to Karbala, leave me there. Take me to Karbala, leave me there. Take me to Karbala, leave me there, leave me there. Take me to Karbala, leave me there. Take me to Karbala, leave me there. Take me to Karbala, leave me there, leave me there. Hussein, bye. Hussein, bye. Hussein, bye. Hussein, bye. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا أهل بيت النبوة ومودي الرسالة ومختلف الملائكة ومحبت الوحي وخزان العلم ومنتهى العلم وأصول الكرم وقادة الأمم وأولياء النعم وأناصر الأبرار وداعم الأخيار وساسة العباد وأركان البلاد وأبواب الإيمان وأمناء الرحمن والصلالة النبيين وصفوة المرسلين وإترة خيرة رب العالمين ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. أجر الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله تعالى مخرجه وجعلنا من أعوانك وأنصارك ورحمة الله وبركاته.